societies like Jamaica are experiencing a persistent increase in homicides, shootings, and other dangerous crimes.
So states of emergency have been declared for 7 parishes across the island for an initial 2-week period. As we move about our daily activities, let's support our first responders in the fight against crime and violence. After all, we have a vested interest in making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise our families, and do business. I'm Audrey Williams, and you're inside another Sunday's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Welcome. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you own land and need a title? Well, the National Land Agency, NLA, can help. Through the systematic land registration process, the NLA will assist residents to get titles in declared project areas across Jamaica. Systematic land registration is the methodical and orderly registration of parcels of land in a designated area known as systematic adjudication area. For further information on the systematic land registration process, including declared systematic adjudication areas, who can apply and the benefits, visit the National Land Agency's website at www.nla.gov.jm or email asknla@nla.gov.jm. The National Land Agency, one agency, one goal.
On Get the Facts this week, we zone in on the recently tabled Bail Act 2022. Take a look.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. The Bail Act 2022 has been tabled in Parliament and is now to go before a joint select committee of the legislature. Suggestions from the public will also be taken into consideration. And leading this process is the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and Portfolio Minister Marlene Malahou-Fort will take us through some of the clauses and the intended outcomes. Welcome to the program, Minister.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to letting you get the facts, getting the facts
So
on
tell me,
this important law.
Well, let's start right here. What are some of the grey areas?
Well, let's start. A new bill has been tabled. We have an existing Bail Act over 20 years old, and the bill is before a joint select committee of the Parliament.
Right.
And we are in the stage where we have invited members of the public to make comments, and we're also using the opportunity to highlight the new features of the bill.
Well, tell me about some of these new features. What are we talking about here?
Well, first of all, the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom, which forms Chapter 3 of the Constitution of Jamaica, was enacted in 2011. The Charter is binding, and it required a review of all laws for compliance. The existing Bail Act was passed before the Charter, and time has come for it to be reviewed. And we also have some peculiarities in the Jamaican landscape that need to be provided for in the law.
Right.
The opportunity, therefore, has been used to rewrite the law, keeping the best of what existed and adding new provisions to account for peculiarities in Jamaica. I'll just say, if you allow me, that it is extremely important that everyone reads the new law fully and carefully.
Right.
The fact that existing provisions have been retained does not mean they have been retained in the same way that they exist in the current law. So, first thing about getting the facts on the new Bail Act, read it fully and carefully.
Yes.
It is on the Parliament's website.
Right, and I actually just pulled it up. It doesn't take much. We can just type in Bail Act 2022 Jamaica, and it's actually the first result on the search page. So, Minister, you were telling us about some of these new areas.
Right. So, the law has been rewritten and in clear and easy to read language.
Yes.
It provides for 3 stages at which bail may be granted.
Okay.
And bail may now be granted before you are charged, before you're formally charged. But this is after you have been arrested or detained on reasonable suspicion that you have committed an offence. And then the next stage, which currently exists in the law, is after you have been charged, but before you have been convicted.
Which is what most people are familiar with.
Which is what most people are familiar with. And the third stage is after you have been convicted and you have appealed, and where you were on bail before, but only for certain offences that are specified in the law.
All right, all right.
So many are concerned about the pre-charge bail, what it is all about. And the provision really takes into account a peculiarity in Jamaica, where police are not always able to build out the case. Heinous crimes are committed, horrible, horrible crimes are committed, and it takes time to get the evidence. Sometimes it is because the witnesses or the victims may themselves be part of the criminality. And police gets the intelligence, credible intelligence, and have to move to arrest someone.
Yes.
A lot of concerns have been raised about keeping persons in custody for a long time where they have not been charged.
Right.
And the system provides for an application for habeas corpus, literally an application to bring the person before. So looking on the constitutional framework and the problem that exists in order to strike a balance to ensure that police can get the time that is required to build out a case, but not to have persons languishing in custody while that is happening. And so we're moving to offer a grant of bail before the charge, where you're on suspicion for having committed the offence.
Understood.
Right. So constitutionally, your liberty, you can be denied of your liberty if there are reasonable grounds for suspecting that you have committed an offence, and also to prevent you from committing an offence. So the question arises as to what happens to someone who has been deprived of his or her liberty on reasonable grounds that he or she has committed an offence. You do not move from suspicion or charge to trial. There are a number of steps in between. And we're looking at what is happening between that arrest or detention and trial within a reasonable time.
And as you have said, it's a balance between the individual's rights and the needs of the
Absolutely, because offences must be investigated. And unfortunately, many are unwilling sometimes to give the evidence in a timely way. It is no secret that we have a culture of informer for dead. People are put under fear, witnesses are threatened, some are even killed. Some are wiped out, their houses are firebombed in acts of arson. Really horrible, horrible examples exist in Jamaica, but police must still investigate and hold perpetrators, bring them in, charge them, and let they stand their trial.
Understood.
Right.
No, I'm sure, as we've discussed, pre-charge bail, I'm sure that persons might wonder, what happens to those who are already on bail? This thing is going now to the legislature. People are commenting on it. When it passes, what happens to those already?
Existing grants or denial of bail will be brought over under the new law. So if you were on bail before, it doesn't mean that your bail is going to be revoked. But the law strikes an appropriate balance. It provides for a review. So bail may be granted outside of court and in court. The new law speaks to a deciding official and clarifies who may grant bail, who is the person. So the police may grant bail, a justice of the peace, and when the JP or the police grants bail, that's usually out of court bail. And then you have the judges, a judge of the parish court, judge of the Supreme Court, and even a judge of appeal who may grant bail.
All right.
And bail is granted to a defendant. And the law defines the defendant as a person who has been charged or convicted, or the person who has been arrested or detained for an offence.
And that then, I noticed...
That is where the pre-charge comes in.
Right, because based on the list you just gave, I noticed it covers the entire gamut of possible bail.
Yes.
All right.
And that makes it clear.
It does.
When one reads the law.
it does, which I'm sure our guests who are watching us Get the Facts today will read this law. It's easily accessible, and the minister has said it is very important because your voice actually can impact this. The conversation with Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Fort, continues on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Crime and violence is infecting our youth. We must work together to rescue them from the gangs, engage them in productive activities, and safeguard Jamaica's future.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We are discussing measures being taken to strengthen our laws with special focus on the Bail Act. Still in studio is Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Fort. Minister, we were talking about pre-charge bail. Right. And I know there are a few more details.
Well, just to say that a person may be placed on pre-charge bail up to a period of 6 months to enable the police to complete their investigation. All defendants are given a right of appeal. They may apply to the court to have the matter considered and any condition imposed. And that's one way of striking a balance.
Right.
And the court will take into consideration the grounds on which the police says they have reason to believe that the person has committed an offense. They will look at the stage at which the investigation has reached, and more importantly, whether further time would enable them to bring a charge. So for anyone who's concerned about whether police could just pick them up, out of spite, perish the thought. The law clearly addresses it and sets out very clearly what has to be taken into account. On top of it, defendants who have been arrested or detained, the matter, if the bail is considered out of court, it has to be considered by a police of the rank of superintendent or above. So no low-ranking officer can use it as a tool to even any score.
Right.
The matter has to be properly reported up through the police division and brought to the attention of at least the superintendent of police. The other thing that needs to be told as you get the facts about the new Bail Act is that the time frame for the consideration of bail has been changed from 24 hours to 48 hours.
If I can just come in here, the consideration of bail.
Yes.
The amount of time that I can be held before bail has to be granted or I be released.
Considered, to be considered.
Right.
So bail, you are entitled to bail where you are suspected of having committed an offense and you have been arrested or detained. You're entitled to be granted bail.
Right.
Unless there is sufficient cause for keeping you in custody.
Like I'm a present and continuous threat.
Absolutely. You may interfere with the witness. You may interfere with the course of investigation. You may commit other offenses. As we have many such cases on the book. But it says that a person shall not be held in custody longer than 48 hours, up from 24 hours, before the question of bail is considered by the deciding official.
Right.
The time change really is to take into account the administrative requirements of processing persons, because sometimes you may have multiple persons taken in. And while the conditions have been improved on, you still want to ensure that you're not breaking the law. We really want to take the society to a place where our laws can be complied with.
Right.
A longer time is provided if the person is to face an identification parade. Naturally, you do not want to put someone who is to face an identification parade out so that it may be said that somebody else was tipped off to identify them.
Right.
And so we move from 24 to 48 hours as a new provision, but built-in mechanism for review of the decision. Where bail is granted out of court, the court is empowered to review it when the person is first brought before the court.
The court, okay.
Yes, and where conditions are imposed, either side, the police or the prosecution, the defendant or the defense, may apply to have those conditions varied, and the court will take into account what is reasonable in the circumstances.
Understood.
So a proper balance is struck, giving both sides an opportunity to make their case.
I can see that. I'm hearing it coming out. And I believe this would be a question that people would be interested in. The time has moved, 24 to 48. But what about those who are accused of serious offenses, say murder?
Well, there are special provisions around murder charges. So the sentence for murder is life imprisonment if it's non-capital murder, and the death penalty if it is capital murder, though we have not executed anyone in a long time.
Right.
But I want to draw special attention to the provision which speaks to what should happen if you are charged with the offense of murder. First of all, if self-defense does not arise, then it's likely, and the strength of the case is such that a conviction is more likely than not, you're going to be staying in custody.
No bail granted.
No. Then if the murder is committed in circumstances which amount to capital murder. So recently, for example, I think there was the quintuple murder over in Clarendon.
Right.
The young man, not now recalling his name,
Yes.
he was sentenced recently. So in those circumstances, you kill one, you kill two, you kill three, you kill four. The law, the Offences Against the Persons Act, sets out murder committed in certain circumstances. Well, if you are before the court in any of those circumstances that would amount to capital murder, you're not going to get bail.
No
You
bail.
shouldn't get bail at all. And then, if you commit murder where a ZOZO has been declared, a zone of special operation, or if a state of emergency, the area is under a state of emergency, and also if the police are using any of their special policing powers and the area is under cordon, just imagine the level of brazenness that it shows. If the police are out in high number and you choose to commit, then the police are also at risk.
Right. Okay, so these
Are also at risk.
considerations.
And at the end of the day, if found guilty, you're not going to be fined. You are going to be imprisoned.
Understood.
And then there are provisions in relation to the use of a firearm that has been unlawfully obtained. So we have tied in the new firearms law, because the new firearms law has provisions which prohibit certain weapons.
Right.
It may permit and regulate possession in certain circumstances. So if you have a gun that has not gone through the system at all, chances are you ain't going to get bail.
So, Minister, all these things are laid out in the Act.
More.
And more.
Time does not allow to go through everything.
That is
That's
so
why
true.
you have to go and read and get the facts for yourself.
Very true.
And we're happy to answer any question that you have. You can always send them into the Parliament while we're on the review.
That is good to hear. We do not have enough time, but we have gotten the main facts, and our guest has been Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Fort. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
Our conversation on the Bail Act 2022 with Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort continues next week. Be sure to join us then.
Your government is working for you. On the East Coast, there's the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. The highway, which began in January 2017, is now slated to end in March 2025. Another segment under the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project is the Maypen to Williams Field, which is approximately 81% complete. Next stop, the Morant Bay Urban Center. Preparation and demolition exercises began in July 2022 at the Goodyear factory in the parish where the center is being constructed. Construction phase has already started. Third stop, over in Portmore. Plans are afoot to make the Sunshine City the 15th parish. With the parish status comes the Portmore Resilience Park, which ground will be broken by year-end 2022. For in the west, we have the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, starting from Ironshore to Bogue, from Montego Bay down to Montpelier. More updates to come as we reignite our nation for greatness.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Transportation has been a hot topic this past week. While we may not have control over over the service providers, we do have responsibility for our own safety. See how you can do so with this innovative app, courtesy of the Transport Authority.
There's this vast yet ever-growing network of connected things, causing meaningful disruption even in the transportation industry, and that's the Internet of Things. Beyond your ride-sharing services, scheduling and routing company vehicles, or the cashless bus and rail services, life-changing technological advancements are engineering safety features and interactive designs to improve the transportation experience. Life-changing technological innovations, such as the TravelPal app, is one way through which the Transport Authority is revolutionizing the industry of movement.
TravelPal application is an application used or developed, I should say, to empower the commuting public to know that they're entering into a licensed vehicle by the Transport Authority. That's it in a nutshell. To know if it's a licensed vehicle of the Transport Authority and also to make sure that they are safe in the vehicle. The need for the application, TravelPal application, came 5 or 4 years ago when the management team of the Transport Authorities tried somehow, some way to let the commuting public know that they're entering into a public passenger vehicle that is licensed, not just by looking at the red plate alone. Having a red plate on a vehicle doesn't mean that you're licensed. Yes, you have been licensed, but we want to know if you're currently licensed. So we try to find a way to let the commuting public know that they're actually entering into a currently licensed public passenger vehicle. And if not, what they can do with that as well.
The features that characterize this app are necessary for our social climate and quite revolutionary.
Features of the TravelPal application are 1, the sharing of the application, 2, the verification of the vehicle that you're going in. Once you download the application, all that's needed is the registration of your phone number. Once the registration of your phone number is done, you put in a license plate, verify the license plate information. For example, you will put in the license plate PP1234, and then you can verify the owner information, you can verify the driver information if it's available, you can verify the license information. You can then share that information with loved ones, your mother, father, whoever you want to share information with of the trip. And you can also, in the event that something happens, you can also push a panic button and share that trip information and location with loved ones as well. Those are the main features. Features that will be coming in the TravelPal application in the coming weeks or months is that we're going to be interfacing with the JCF, Jamaica Constabulary Force 119 Center. So once you push that panic button on the application, it will no longer send information only to your loved ones, but it will also send a signal into the 119 centers of the JCF as well. More features that will be coming are, for example, point system, where if you share the app multiple times, you'll be able to get, whether it be prizes or if you want to have gifts given away, we also have that as well in the application. So there are 2 main features coming.
And as for further developments with our telecommunication providers?
The agreement between our telecommunication providers right now is that they are working to make the application free. They are working to have it data free. So for example, once you have a smartphone, you don't have any data or credit on your phone, you still be able to use the application regardless of where in the country you are. So that is work in progress. It is being worked on right now with both Flow and Digicel.
And for your peace of mind, the $2.3 billion TravelPal app, which has been attracting hundreds of persons using public passenger vehicles, manages your data with high security standards.
The security of the information on the TravelPal application is done twofold. We have a data security advisor through the company that developed the application. The licensed database is stored at the government database center locally in-house, and the storage of your location details is not done at all unless you push that panic button into the 119 center, and then that's where the 119 center will then be able to locate your information. But once you end the trip, that's the end of the storage of the data.
The Ministry of Transport and Mining's TravelPal app is creating something for the safety and security of the commuting public. The app is free to download and free to use. Let's start our route to safety today.
Even war-torn countries have a murder rate less than Jamaica. And we has, as a people, we have to recognize that the murder rate that we have, the level of violence that we have, the level of public disorder that we have, the level of trying to challenge the state, it is unusual, it is abnormal, and it is disruptive. But there is another dimension to this. The criminal networks and the criminal organizations are doing their best to incorporate legitimate persons, legitimate public authority into their criminal actions. In other words, they are trying to corrupt the state. And many of them are using tactics to drive fear in the public, drive fear in the public, and drive fear in communities. Now, when we start to see criminal organizations operating in that way, then they are beginning to transition out of being criminal operatives to trying to influence government policy and outcome. We have seen states where this has reached the point where either the state is on the brink of collapse or they have had to take extreme actions. We are trying to avoid that at all costs.
Over 100 homes delivered across 14 parishes. Your government, under the new social housing program, is making home ownership possible for those who didn't even dare to dream. Over the next 3 years, we will be building 1,500 homes just for our vulnerable citizens. Without a doubt, all citizens, irrespective of economic status, deserve a good home. Your government cares.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
That's all the time we have left today on this show. Join us tomorrow on this same station for another exciting installment of Jamaica Magazine. To re-watch today's offering or other content like this, visit our website, jis.gov.jm. From all of us here at the JIS, have yourself a wonderful Sunday. I'm Audrey Williams. See you next time.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.